Hey everybody, welcome back. It is Saturday morning in Arizona, and today I am going to put this track lock differential back in. I have cleaned all my brass chips and shavings out of it from whacking the gears around with this big brass punch to get it to line back in because these new clutches are super tight. I'll put a link to my, you know what? I'll just put a link to my entire Jeep playlist, and you can go back and find out the ones you want to see where I took this out or I rebuilt it, whatever you want to see. I'll put them all in there. I have a bunch of CJ7 videos, but I'm going to put this back in today. I got all my brass chips out. I think I'm ready to put it back in. I can't think of any reason why not. I packed the bearings as best I could when considering I'm not taking them off. I can't put it completely back together today. I probably wouldn't have the time anyway, but I don't have brake shoes yet. I don't have the center flex hose yet, and I don't have a cover gasket yet. So I think I should have all that by tomorrow or Monday. But today we're going to put the differential and the axles back in, and I got new seals. They're here too somewhere. But you know what? Let's get it out there and let's put it back in. So I have spared you guys the joy of watching me pressure wash and degrease and scrape and wire brush. And I keep having to remind myself that this is a rebuild, not a restoration. I wish it was a restoration, but I have neither the manpower, the time, nor the energy to make it one. So I got everything as clean as I could with a couple hours worth of cleaning, and it's going back together like this as soon as I go put on a set of dry socks and shoes. Okay, let's see how much fun this is to get back up in here. I've got my bolts, caps, and shims down there on the correct side. The races are on the bearings on what I'm pretty sure is the correct side. I'm 87% sure. Let's get it up in there. Now I should be able to put the shims in, I think, after I lift it up in there. I suppose, yeah, I can slide those in after. So let's lift it up in there with the bearing races in place. Shouldn't be that hard, huh? Of course, the race of me, I say, the second I say it shouldn't be that hard, one of the races falls off, but I should be able to slide that up in there. Now I got my glove stuck in it. There we go. That's kind of up in there, isn't it? I'm just going to use a 1/4-inch impact driver, and a underpowered one at that, just to kind of snug these down. I shouldn't be able to do too much damage with this. It says here, oh, that one's all the way down. Oh, they're all the way down. Okay. All right, well, that was nice, huh? And it still moves okay, still sloppy as hell like it was when it came apart. Actually, if you look at that, for a rear end with that many miles on it, that's not bad at all. So I am now going to go get the torque wrench. I don't even know what the torque spec is for that, but let's find out what that torque spec is. I'm sure Google knows. Okay, believe it or not, our torque spec is 87 foot-pounds. Now there's an engineer for you. Not 85, not 90, but 87. I have my favorite old snap-on torque wrench. I've had this thing like forever, and I'm sure it's probably not that accurate anymore. You know, it just dawned on me, and I don't know why it only now just dawned on me, that if I want to replace that inner axle seal, I am going to have to pull the race out. If I pull the race out, I'll destroy it. If I destroy it, then I got to change the bearings, and then I'm back down that rabbit hole of pressing the sleeve, the spacer sleeve, and the bearings off of the axle and back on, and I'm not going there. This wasn't leaking. These seals were all replaced not all that long ago, so I'm going to do the right thing and just pretend I changed them and put it back together. So these bearings, I'm just going to fill. There's really almost no way to repack them. You know, I can try and squeeze grease down in there like that, and I'm going to go all the way around and do the best I can, but I'm not really going to even pretend that they are packed. So, but I'm going to do the best I can do, and then I am going to put the race back on it, and that little cavity in between the inner and outer seals they sit in, I am going to completely fill that with grease, and it's just going to have to survive like that. I mean, it did before because I've done this before. Okay, I hope that camera is getting this in shot because I can't see anything out here in the sun. It's a sunny day here. Kind of cool, but warm in the sun. I've got as much grease packed in there as I can get. I've got grease packed all around the bearing down in here. Tried to make a hole so I don't drag too much in with me. And let's slide her in. There we go. Oh yeah, that's squoozing out, so that's good. That's good. Got to get it up flush. Oh yeah, squeezing all out. Yeah, look at all that good stuff squeezing out. So I had that packed nice and full. That's what I wanted. All right. Oh, it's even squeezing through the bolt holes. That's fine. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I really filled that. Let's get the grease out of the way and let's get the bolts. Okay, I have my bolts. They have been soaking for several hours in some varnish, otherwise known as old gasoline. And I'm going to put those in and tighten them down. Now, okay. All right, there's that axle on. Let's go do the other side. Okay, so this side went back on exactly the way the other side did, and that makes me happy. I do not have any RTV gasket maker, or I would put the diff cover back on, but I think what I'm going to do is just put it back on loosely with a couple of screws just to keep any dust or anything from blowing up in there. And oh, the brake hose arrived while I was wrestling that diff in and out of there. So I got the rear brake hose here. I've about had my fill crawling around under it for one day, so I think that's going to wait for tomorrow too. And then in the morning I'll run down and get the RTV sealant, and we'll get that back in. I'm not going to have the brake shoes till Monday anyway. So, and today is Saturday, and my previous video of the Trac lock rebuild just went live today, so this video isn't going to get posted until Wednesday anyway. So I think I'll put everything away. Can't really do much more. and put everything away and call it a day. Okay, let's start with the brake hose. You can see it attaches to the rear axle right here with one bolt. And then there's a flare nut with the pipe on either side. So 24 hours in advance, I can't see whether, yeah, I got it in the picture. So 24 hours in advance, hose this down with your favorite penetrating oil a couple times if you're a believer in that. I used to be a big believer in mixing ATF with acetone. And then somebody turned me on to Croil, and I used Croil for years. And then I watched Project Farm and AVE and a couple other channels test and realized that one's really isn't any much better than the other, assuming they do anything at all. So anyway, get yourself a flare nut wrench because you do not want to bust any of this. And slowly take these two pipe flare nuts off. Leave this bolted on when you do it. And then the other one is, let me get the grass out of the way, way up there. Can you see it right there? And there is a flare nut on top of that. And then there is this kind of U-shaped saddle clip that holds it on. If you bust that saddle clip, you'll have to go buy one because one does not come with the hose. I have found vice grips usually work the best. You can just grab it and work it around and weasel it out of there. You know, leave it on until you get the flare nut loosened and taken off. So that's the next job. This one isn't that terribly hard to get to from the outside, so see if I can get that. Okay, I got that out. That was no fun at all. And this, my friends, that is an original piece from 1980 or earlier. That has never been changed, and I could tell by A, what it's made out of, and B, that it didn't have a spring clip in here. It had one of those clips like, you know, come on the brakes, like that one there, that you just slide on and squeeze together instead of a spring clip. I could not get this to come out to save my life. There's almost no way to grab onto that as opposed to the ones that have a 90-degree bend, and there was quite a bit of pressure on it, so I had to take that clip out. But fortunately, I have a tool I made just for those clips. So that came out pretty easy. All the steel lines came out really easy, so I'm going to put the new one back in now. See if I can do this one-handed. I just kind of want to show you how this goes. That's awful close, isn't it? So this pushes up. I can't tell whether it's focused or in view or not. This pushes up through the hole in the steel frame, and once you get that up through, this taps through on the other side and pinches it all in there. But when you put the steel line back in to tighten it, you need to hold the bottom side with a wrench or it'll just spin. So that's the last little fun job of this brake hose. And then you can just tap this in with a hammer. I cleaned it up a bit with a wire brush, but you just whack it back in with a hammer and you're pinched in there and you can put your hose back in, or your steel line. Okay, I have my new brake hose on, and I'm going to put the wheel cylinders on next. And for God's sakes, people, don't over tighten these steel line fittings. It doesn't need it. They only need to be just past snug in order to seal, and the more you tighten them, the more you're going to deform the flare, and the harder it's going to be for somebody else to get it apart. You know, and think of the next guy who's got to work on it, because hey, you know what? It just might be you, or one of your kids, or one of your friends or something. If you're paying somebody else to do it, that's another matter entirely. Hell with them, right? I got the parking brake cables pushed back in. Going to put the wheel cylinders on next. Okay, wheel cylinders are back in on both sides, so only thing I have to do left, I can do today anyway, before I get the brake pads, or excuse me, the brake shoes, is seal that diff cover up. So that's what we're going to do now. One thing to note on the AMC 20, it's kind of different than other diff covers. It has an indentation, a step, and I'll show you. It has a step in here. Can you see it? This is indented in, and it's got a round ring that fits. It does not seal around the area where the bolts go. You can put sealer in there if you want. I know people who do. I don't really think it helps any. It seals in on here, and that ring gasket fits in there, and that's really all it needs. And yes, these are prone to leakage, which is why some people tend to glob them full of silicone. I've tried that. I don't think it helps. But let's go take a look at the cover now that I have it off. And I got the gasket over here. And I'm going to do another no-no. And it's not so much because I'm cheap, because it only costs $8-9. I'm going to use the original gasket here because the original gasket's rubber. The new ones are cork, and I'm not a big fan of cork. And who am I to argue with the likes of Felpro, but I like the rubber ones, and I can't find them anymore. So that's how that fits, and you can see that's all completely inside the bolt holes. None of the sealing is around this edge where the bolts are. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put some black RTV around it. I'm going to put it in place on the diff. I'm going to put black RTV around the outside of it, and then I'm going to put the cover on, tighten it loose, you know, finger tight, and then I am going to wait. How long do they say? They say let dry for 1 hour and then tighten the torque specifications, which are, you know, I don't know what they are. Maybe I'll look them up. I probably won't. Anyway, let's do that now. So I think I'm going to have to end this video here for now. I do have all the rest of the parts to finish putting the brakes and everything back together, but it's going to be a couple of days before I can get to it. So everything's cleaned up here waiting for me. I got a stack of new parts in another corner. But anyway, thanks for watching, and we will get this Jeep back running really soon. Bye for now.